Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today's video is on inverse functions. Um, Inverse functions can be, so we did define functions in the last video. Inverse functions are functions that undo another function. So basically it's the opposite of a function. Now before we get started on how to find an inverse function, the notation of inverse function is f to the power minus 1x. So when you see something like that, it basically is talking about an inverse function. Right. So we're gonna first learn how to find inverse function. I'll do a couple of examples. Hopefully that helps. So my first step when I've got a function, so here the function is f of x equals 3x minus 5, and I need to find the inverse function for this. I'm going to start off by doing this. Let y equals 3x minus 5. So I got rid of f of x and replaced it with the letter y. What I'm going to try and do now is make x the subject of this equation. So in order to do that, I like to think of the journey of the x. So x used to be on its own, then it got multiplied by 3 to give me 3x, then I subtract 5, then I get y. So the last thing that happened before I got y was I subtracted 5. So start off by doing the opposite of that. So I'm going to add 5 both sides. So I end up with y plus 5 equals 3x. And in order for me to get x on its own, I divide both sides by 3. So then x is the subject of this equation. X equals y plus 5 over 3. So now I'm going to write this as an inverse function of x. This equation is in terms of y before, so the inverse function of x will be x plus 5 divided by 3. So this inverse function undoes the original function f of x equals 3x minus 5. Right, let's move on to the next example. This time my function f of x is x squared plus 8. Same situation. Let's start off with let y equals x squared plus 8. This time I'm going to, again, using that journey. First step, I'm going to subtract 8 both sides. So y minus 8 equals x squared. Then to get x on its own, square root both sides. Opposite of squaring is square root. So I square root both sides. That gives me x is equal to square root of y minus 8. So when I write this as an inverse function of x, that'll be square root of x minus 8. Okay, I'm going to move on to this situation. Now my f of x, function of x, is a fraction where the x is in the numerator as well as the denominator. So again, my starting point is let y equals x plus 5 over x plus 3. Now the fraction on the right hand side is a full single fraction. There is no other number or fraction adding to or subtracting to this fraction. So I'm going to start off by trying to get rid of the denominator. So the denominator is dividing that fraction, right? And it's dividing the numerator. Shouldn't say dividing a fraction really. It's dividing the numerator. So to get rid of it, I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So multiply both sides by x plus 3. So I end up expanding this, y times x, so I can write that as xy, and y times 3 is 3y, is equal to, and these two x plus 3's on the right hand side cancel off, leaving me with x plus 5. Okay, now in this situation I need to get all the x's to one side. So I'm going to get rid of this x on the right hand side. It's a positive x. To get rid of it, I subtract x both sides. Now on the left hand side, x, y and x are not like terms, so I just write it down like this. xy minus x plus 3y is equal to 5. And I subtract 3y both sides in order to isolate the x's. I'm going to draw a line to split my page up. There we go. Okay, we are going to carry on. So I am now left with xy minus x is equal to 5 minus 3y. Then I'm going to factorize on the left hand side so that I can isolate the x. So that'll be x brackets y minus 1 is equal to 5 minus 3y. In order to get x on its own, I divide both sides by y minus 1. So I end up with x is equal to 5 minus 3y divided by y minus 1. So the inverse function of x can be written as 5 minus 3x over x minus 1. Okay, so this is a short video on a few questions of inverse functions. Hopefully it helps, and if you have any other requests for any more videos, just message me and I will try and do those videos. Thank you very much.